When you think of the most famous riffs in rock history, Smoke on the Water by Deep Purple has to be pretty close to the top of your list, right? Did you know, though, that the song would never have come into being without a tragedy that happened in 1971? Okay, you probably did know that, but you might not know the whole story. Hi, I'm Adam, welcome back to Music Mongoose. If you love delving into music history like I do, this is the place for you. Click subscribe and join the pack. Interestingly, the story behind Deep Purple's most renowned hit can be traced back to another rock icon, Frank Zappa, and a terrifying performance at the Montreux Casino in Switzerland. Zappa was known at the time for being a bit provocative and often attracted as many critics as he did fans. His music was intentionally confrontational. However, on December 4th, 1971, things went a bit overboard. As Zappa and the Mothers took to the stage, their set began as normal. But things took a darker turn when a fan fired a flare gun into the crowd. Now, this incident somehow triggered an explosion in the venue's heating system, igniting a fire that resulted in several injuries, destroyed the band's equipment, and left the casino in ruins. Remarkably, even though Zappa lost all his equipment in the fire, the audio recording itself survived intact.
Fire! If you'll just calmly go towards the exit, ladies and gentlemen. Go towards the exit calmly.
According to an account of the fire, announcements were made from the stage as smoke began to fill the venue, prompting the audience, which had been seated on the floor, to start evacuating. Many were able to exit quickly, but the fire suddenly intensified, putting those near the stage at risk of being trapped. Fire crews arrived swiftly and broke large plate glass windows between the old casino and the newer building next door. This allowed some people to jump out, but also fanned the flames, which quickly took hold and ultimately destroyed the entire wooden interior, leaving only the walls standing. Deep Purple were of course in town to record their next album, and they were staying nearby to where this all happened. And luckily, despite some minor injuries, everyone managed to escape alive. And the members of Deep Purple were watching this all unfold from their hotel. The chaos of that day resulted in the loss of a remarkable venue and equipment. Ultimately, the fire destroyed the casino on its final night before the space was supposed to be repurposed as a rehearsal room for the winter. Yet, silver lining, this event produced one of rock's most famous songs. Like I said, Deep Purple were in town to record their next album. We all came out to Montreux on the Lake Geneva shoreline to make records with a mobile. We didn't have much time. Frank Zappa and the Mothers were at the best place around, but some stupid with a flare gun burned the place to the ground, as the lyrics go. So the lyrics of the song tell a real story, the events of that day, even including a mention of Funky Claude. Funky Claude was actually Claude Nobbs, the director of the Montreux Jazz Festival, seen helping people escape the flames. Good on you, Claude. Now, while the lyrics depict those events, the song is perhaps more known for its incredible riff. Played by Ritchie Blackmore on a Fender Stratocaster, the riff is complemented by hi-hat, distorted organ, and drums, before Ian Gillan's vocals enter. Blackmore later claimed the riff was inspired by an inversion of Beethoven's Symphony No. 5.
And Beethoven, bum 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 bum, bum 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 bum. And I thought, play that backwards.
Hang on. Are you telling me
Yes.
that the famous riff of Smoke on the Water is from Beethoven?
It's an interpretation of inversion. If you turn it back and play it back and forth, it's actually Beethoven's Fifth.
However, a lot of fans and critics have theorized that this is either a joke from Blackmore, as he was certainly known for joking around with the press, or an outright lie. It's certainly possible he was inspired by inversing and interpreting Beethoven, but it's much more likely he was inspired by a 60s bossa nova song originally written by Carlos Lyra, popularized by Brazilian singer Astrid Gilberto, called Maria Quiet. Have a listen. Now, I'll let you argue about whether it was plagiarism, inspiration, or innocent coincidence in the comments below, but right now, let's get back to 1971. Deep Purple were in a pickle. They were still in Montreux with their equipment, but now they had nowhere to record, on account of it being burned down. To help them out, the manager of the casino arranged for them to record in a smaller theatre nearby. The band set up their equipment on stage and connected cables to the Rolling Stones mobile studio. The RSM, Rolling Stones Mobile Studio, was the first professional mobile recording studio built in 1968 by Rolling Stones tour manager Ian Stewart. It was originally intended for the band's use only, but was later rented out to other bands and to the BBC and ITV. The RSM was also used to record some of the most iconic albums of the 1970s by other bands, including Fleetwood Mac, Led Zeppelin, and Black Sabbath. They finally began recording that afternoon, then took a dinner break and resumed recording around 9 or 10 p.m. As they resumed, they started jamming, and Ritchie Blackmore produced this riff. It was unclear whether the riff was prepared beforehand or if he created it on the spot, but it had a mid-tempo, plodding quality. The song quickly came together. They discussed the structure, deciding on a verse, a chorus, and a solo. By the time they were ready to record, it was around midnight. Now, during their first take, which was still just more of a jam session and a rough arrangement rather than a fully formed song, they were unaware that the police were trying to intervene because their recording sessions were keeping the entire town awake. Because at the time, Montreux was a very quiet town, with mostly elderly residents. So now, to keep the elderly people of Montreux happy, the band had to find another recording space in the small town, which offered limited options. After several days of searching, they discovered the Grand Hotel, which was closed for the winter. Roger Glover would describe this place as cold and uninviting, especially during November and December. They arranged for a carpenter to build a few walls, they put mattresses for soundproofing, and had a heater brought in to keep them all warm. At the hotel, they recorded tracks like Highway Star, Lazy, and Pictures of Home. However, they soon realised they still needed one more song. Then, they remembered the jam they hadn't finished at their previous location, before the elderly people shouted at them. Ian Gillan listened to that initial recording, sat down, and added lyrics in a sort of conversational style. As for the title, we can possibly thank bassist Roger Glover for it, who revealed that the idea came to him in a dream days after the fire, as he envisioned the smoke drifting from the casino onto Lake Geneva. It was probably the biggest fire I'd ever seen up to that point, and probably ever seen in my life, Glover recounted. It was a huge building. I remember there was very little panic getting out because it didn't seem like much of a fire at first, but when it caught, it went up like a fireworks display. And other accounts actually say that the title came to the band while they were watching from their hotel room. Glover admitted they never anticipated it would have a significant future. They initially viewed it as a mid-tempo, slightly boring track and believed their efforts were better spent on another song, Never Before, which they thought would be the single. Ultimately, it was radio DJs and the public that would elevate Smoke on the Water to iconic status. Glover would later say that the riff is both simple and distinct from anything else, using a minimal number of notes to create something truly powerful. He'd also compare it to writing a song about going to the grocery store and buying cheese, a completely mundane task. Think about it, the song is literally about them struggling to find a place to record their new album. Yet, Smoke on the Water became an all-time rock classic. As for the casino, it was ultimately rebuilt, and since the song played a significant role in putting Montreux on the map, a monument to the song now stands at the casino as a tribute. Yeah, nice touch. Now, another song that has a secret tragedy behind it is Gimme Shelter by the Rolling Stones. I've made an entire video about how that song was made as well. Click over there to watch it next.